Today we're going to be adding integers. Our goal is to apply and enhance previous understanding to add integers by using an algorithm. In a previous tutorial we used manipulatives as well as a number line to add integers. Today we're going to use an algorithm. We're going to look at previous knowledge of absolute value to look for patterns. What we're going to find out is there a method for finding the sum of integers without using a number line? We're going to do some investigation to see if that can be done. Let's first review. Absolute value, a number's distance from 0 on a number line. So the absolute value of -3, for example, would be its distance, which is 3 units. The absolute value of 4 would be 4 because it is 4 units from 0. When two numbers with the same sign are added together, we move in the same direction on a number line. So if we move 7 negative units and we move -2 more units, we have -9. And likewise, if I have 7 units to the right and 2 more units to the right, I land on +9. So those are some review concepts that we want to make sure we have in our mind. Another review concept, when two numbers with opposite signs are added together, we move in the opposite directions on a number line. For example, -7, I move -7 units to the left because it's negative numbers to the left, and then I need to go positive units to the right, and I land on -5. So notice how I've gone in opposite directions. A common misconception is that students believe when two numbers with opposite signs are added together, the answer is negative. Now, this is not always the case. If I have a number like -4 plus 8, my answer is going to be +4. Again, 4 negatives, and then in the opposite direction, 8, I land on -4. So now that we've reviewed, now we're going to look for patterns when adding negative and positive integers. So, can you find a pattern when adding integers with opposite signs? Let's look. Well, we have -5 plus -11 equals -6. Now notice that if I have 11 minus 5, that's going to give me 6, which I've demonstrated. So using the absolute values, we can make this a subtraction problem. But notice that I don't get the same answer. So let's look for more patterns and see if we can determine anything conclusive. So when we have -5 plus -11, we get -16. And we notice that if we add the absolute value of 5 and 11, we get +16. So have you noticed a pattern? Let's try some more problems. Let's first work with opposite sides. So if we have 6 plus -7, that's going to give me -1. And if I have 7 minus 6, that's going to give me 1. So again, by turning these into absolute values, I can get a subtraction problem. The thing that I need to notice, though, is that when I have a higher number that is negative, my answer is negative. Let's try another and see what happens when we have a higher number of positive. So if we have -2 plus 9, that's going to give me +7. And I notice that 9 minus 2 is also +7. So in this case, I have kind of a true subtraction problem. My answer is the same in both cases. Well, we notice that when we have a higher positive, our answer is positive, and all we really did was subtract. When we have a higher negative, my answer is negative. And again, all we need to do is subtract and then use the sign of the larger number, which is negative in this case, and positive in the second case. So arranging the absolute values of the add-ins, the numbers you're adding together, makes a true subtraction or addition equation. If they have opposite signs, we can turn it into a subtraction problem. First, we need to make a little note. My higher number is 8, and 8 is positive. So now I can just arrange a subtraction problem. 8 minus 6 is 2. And double checking, my answer is positive because my higher number is positive. Looking at another example, I have negative 4 plus negative 3 equals negative 7. Again, when I have the same signs, instead of having a true subtraction, I have a true addition. So, same sign, I just add 4 plus 3, and I get 7. And then I just use the sign that I'm dealing with. Am I dealing with positive numbers in my original equation or negative? Well, negative 4 plus negative 3, that would be negative 7. And it's adding because I'm going in the same direction on the number line. It's subtracting because when we subtract, when we have opposite signs, we go in opposite directions on the number line. So I hope that you're making connections between this lesson and the previous lesson as you're going along. Let's look at some more complicated problems. A scuba diver dives to a depth of 60 feet, rises 25 feet, sinks 10 feet, and then rises 24 feet. What is the diver's final position relative to sea level? So there's a few things we need to really look at with the wording of this problem. If you dive, you're going down below sea level. So we know that we're going to start with a negative 60. Rises 25 feet is going to be positive. So I'll put that in green actually. Sinks 10 feet is negative, because if you're sinking, you're going down. Rises, again, positive 24 feet. So what is his or her final position relative to sea level? Well, we have to first create an equation, which is negative 60 plus 25 plus negative 10 plus positive 24. So now that we have our equation, we just go from left to right, adding the integers. Well, I have negative 60 plus positive 25. And I first, of course, need to just know that I have opposite signs, so I'm going to subtract. Then I need to ask myself, which one is higher, the negative or the positive? Well, 60 is bigger than 25, so my negative number is bigger, so that means my answer is going to be negative. Now I just subtract 60 minus 25, which is 35. And because my higher number is negative, my answer is negative 35. Now I'm going to add negative 10 to the negative 35. Now again, now I have a true addition problem because I have the same signs. I have negative 35 plus negative 10, so I keep the same sign, which is negative, and then I just add them together. 35 plus 10 is 45, so my answer is negative 45. Then we finally rise 24. Let me do that in black. And so now again I am faced with opposite signs. My higher number is negative, so my answer I know is going to be negative. And then I just use true subtraction. So if it was 45 minus 24, that would give me 21, and because my higher number is negative, the diver's final position relative to sea level is negative 21 feet. So that's using multiple steps, using that common algorithm. If I tried to do all of these with manipulatives and all of these numbers on a number line, that would be a lot more work than using my knowledge of absolute value and connecting it to addition and subtraction. And then you just need to apply those rules of positive and negative integers in order to help you out. Let's look at another example. Isabella, Ryan, and Jose played a trivia game. A correct answer is worth 1 point, so that would be a positive point. An incorrect answer results in a negative point, so that would be -1. Notice how I'm underlining and making notes as I'm going through the word problem. They all responded to 10 questions. So I have 10 questions. Isabella's score was -2. Ryan had 6 correct answers. So they didn't tell me his score. He didn't say he had a score of 6. He said he got 6 correct. What is Jose's score if he was in second place? So I know that Jose had more correct than Isabella. However, he had less correct than Ryan. So, how many of his answers are correct? So I need to know 2 things. I need to know Jose's score, and I need to know how many were correct. Well, first of all, I need to translate Ryan's 6 correct answers into a score. If Ryan had 6 correct, that would be +6, which would mean that out of 10, 4 were incorrect. So that would mean that Ryan's score would be 6 plus -4. Again, opposite signs means I have a subtraction problem. My higher number is positive, so Ryan's score is +2. So I know that Jose scored between -2 and 2. So somewhere in between there if he was in second place. How many of his answers are correct is also what we need to know. Well, I hope you're recognizing if Ryan had +2, Isabella had -2. If we looked at this problem critically, we'd know that -6 plus +4 is going to give me -2. So I know that Isabella got 4 correct answers, Ryan got 6. What number lies between 4 and 6? So we can see, 5 plus -5 would give me 0. So the only number that's in between those two is 5 correct and 5 incorrect, which would mean Jose scored second place. He had a score of 0 and 5 correct answers. So this is kind of a challenging problem, and it's important that you're really looking at all the details when you have problems like this. Remember to make connections and think critically. So let's review. When you have integers with opposite signs, subtract the absolute values of the numbers. The answer will have the same sign as the number with the larger absolute value. So for example, -8 plus +20. Well, I know the absolute value of -8 is 8. I know the absolute value of 20 is 20. 20 minus 8, because I'm subtracting because I have opposite signs, is 12. And then I need to say, what's greater? The absolute value of 20 or the absolute value of -8? Well, the absolute value of 20 is greater, so that would give me +12. And we don't have to put the positive sign, it's a given, but that helps remind some of us. When you have integers with the same signs, you add the absolute values of the numbers. The answer will have the same sign as both integers. So if I have -6 plus -32, I have an addition problem because they're the same sign. So I know the absolute value of -6 is 6, and the absolute value of -32 is 32. 6 plus 32 is 38. And I know that 6 and 32 are both negative. So my answer is going to be negative. So my answer is negative 38. So I hope that review helps you out. So now I want you to take a minute to try the guided practice problems. You have negative 34 plus negative 53, 0 plus negative 167, 27 plus negative 45, 4 plus negative 7 plus negative 1. And then you have one word problem. A seal is 10 feet below sea level and dives an additional 20 feet below sea level. The position of the sea relative to sea level is, and you're going to answer all these questions. Go ahead and take a minute to pause this video, copy down your guided practice problem, and be ready to discuss them in the morning of our next class. Go ahead and take a minute to pause now. So another great job today. Don't forget your common rules and really avoid confusing those rules with multiplication and division. So today you've learned how to add integers using a common algorithm, and make sure you're making connections of how to apply that to manipulatives and a number line. So another great job today, and keep up the good work.